23 years old, I'm living in a little apartment in Lake Charles, Louisiana, little tiny duplex. I lived on one half of this thing, and me and my dog, Capo. I don't know what I was doing trying to take care of a dog. I couldn't even take care of myself. One rainy night, this dude, Danny, comes in with drugs. Another day where I said, I'm gonna quit today. Now it's 11 o'clock at night. I didn't quit. 10 times I failed again. Danny leaves the house, and when Danny leaves the house, I didn't know, but he set it up to rob me and beat me up. And this other big dude in the rain, a rainy Louisiana night, puts a .45 caliber pistol in my face, right here, hovered over me with a gun in my face. And when he did, my reaction was to hit him with the plate in the face. You know, I broke this plate. It was an unbreakable plate, one of those plates you can't break. He becomes like a monster. This scar right here in my head is he took that .45 caliber and jammed it in my face. He hits me here. He cracks me over both my eyes here, underneath these two eyes. They ransacked the house, robbed me of a little bit of money. This is what happens when you hang around bad people. Sooner or later, the day's gonna come where you're gonna pay the price. I get rushed to the hospital. My girlfriend's there. She's in the back. She comes out. They put in 70 stitches in my head and face. Like my whole face is just carved up. I'm like, I'm fine, I can go home. I go home to my mother. I walk into my mother's house in the back door. I knock on the back door. I'm beat up now. My mom comes to the door and she's like, what? Where's my son at? I'm like, Mom, I am your son. Where is my son? Nobody could recognize who I was. That's how beat up I was. The hospital doesn't want me to go to sleep because I could literally die. So they bring me back to spend 3 days in the hospital. And I'm like, no more drugs. I'm done using drugs, okay? Guess what happens? I'm using drugs 15 minutes later. 10 times a day in the hospital. Couldn't get out, couldn't quit. Look, nobody starts using drugs and thinks they're going to be a drug addict. I didn't. I started using drugs, and for some reason, something happened where those drugs just took over. My mom says to me, you're no longer welcome in my home. You're no longer welcome in my business. I don't want to see you anymore. That was the day my life turned around. Really, everybody was pretty much done with me at this point. My older brother died when I was 20. He was worried about me. All I know at this point, I lost my dad when I was 10. I lost my brother when I was 20. I gave up my career and maybe I'm gonna be a baseball player to drugs. I've lost 5 or 6 jobs now, and I'm a loser, dude. I'm a total loser. But I do have this little light inside of me that says I'm special. I have this little thing inside of me that says, hey, you are special, you know? You have something. But it was just covered up in all this stuff. And all these problems, and the drugs, and the bad friends, and the bad choices. So my mom finally says, enough is enough. Don't come back here anymore. I'm done. I could tell it was hard for her. I'm in a treatment center in the next 24 hours. For the first 30 days in 7, 8, 9 years, I don't use drugs. Oh, wow. I don't have to use drugs. Finally, that thing where I said I was quitting 10 times a day, I was quitting 10 times a day. For the first time in my life, I was able to quit successfully. I'm leaving the treatment center when the insurance ran out, because that's how those work. When the money runs out, they boot you to the curb. I'm terrified, scared to go back to society. I don't have any friends that aren't using drugs. My girlfriend was using drugs. Everybody around me, everybody I knew used drugs. And I'm going back to a job where even at the job I had, they used drugs. And I'm like, I'm going back to an environment. I have to cut off all my friends. Not really friends. I got to cut off all the enemies, right? And I got to start over. And before I leave, the counselor grabs me, and the counselor says to me, look, dude, I'll see you back here. Probably, you know, if you don't die, I'll see you back here. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm not coming back here. And he's like, oh, no, you're coming back. And then he gives me the lecture. He's like, you'll never make it. See, when you go to a treatment center, you tell them everything about your life, like all your secrets, all your inhibitions, you know, the things you want to do in your life. I'm telling them in this thing, everything I've done wrong, I share my whole life, but I also share with them what I want to do, my inspiration in life. I'm going to write books, I'm going to speak to audiences, I'm going to help people, I'm going to tell people the story about drugs and how damaging they are, and I'm going to be somebody, I tell them. And they're like, no, dude. You're a drug addict. And all you're ever going to be, this is what the counselor tells me, all you're ever going to be is a drug addict. You need to give up all the ideas of writing books, speaking to audiences, being rich. I always wanted to be rich. I wanted financially to be rich my whole life. I wanted to be my dad. I wanted to be the guy that could take care of his family. They said, you need to give up all those ideas and settle for one thing, not use the drugs. If the day ends and you don't use drugs, Grant, that is a good day for you.